was working 2 jobs, had a car, had an apartment, had everything, and everything I thought was in order. She started. She was doing pills. I really didn't know to what extent, Percocets and oxys and things like that. And I was working 18 hours a day. I came home one day complaining about my back, so she gave me a Percocet, and that's basically where it started. And here and there I would take one when I'd get up, and next thing I knew, it was an everyday thing. Lasted for about a year, and I got a new job, a better job, making a lot more money. I was still doing the Percocets and the oxys, probably spending about $400 or $500 a week. Still maintaining, kept a car, lost my apartment. Like I said, got a new job, easy work, making good money, just riding around in the truck basically all day, not doing much. The guy I worked with was actually on heroin at that point. Came to work one day, and I didn't have my Percocets or any oxys for that day, and I was extremely sick. I don't know if you guys know, but when you come off that stuff and you don't have it, it feels like you're dying. So he was like, man, let's go get some stuff, to make you feel better. And I had been rejecting it for a long time, I just didn't, I had just the name heroin just made me sick, and it was just so bad off. I was like, all right, well, let's go do it. And so we go and get some. He breaks some up and puts it out in front of me, and unfortunately I snorted it, and about 5-10 minutes later I knew right then it was over from there. I knew I was not there was no turning back. And I snorted it for about 6 months, made my own connections, met some not so good people along the way, and started hanging out with this other girl. She was actually shooting at the time, and she asked me, she's like, how much do you spend roughly on heroin a day? I'm like, I don't know, $100, $150 a day on it. And like I said, had to work 2 jobs just to keep up with it, just to try to have a car and everything. So she's like, well, if you start shooting it, you don't have to spend as much money, and and you actually get high. And so I rejected it for a while. A few months went by, and I was just to a point where I didn't have any money. I couldn't pay for gas, couldn't pay for anything. Was stealing from friends and stuff like that. That's how it started slowly. So I picked the needle up. Well, she picked the needle up for me, and actually I let her, shoot some into my veins. And after that, then I truly knew it was over, and I really felt as if I would never come out of that. I thought I was, I just thought that was just going to be the rest of my life. So for say about a year and a half, I shot dope, and it started. And she was right. It is cheaper, but obviously you build up a tolerance to it. Started about $20 a day. Next thing I know, I was dropping $200 a day just to keep from being sick. And to maintain $200 a day, you've got to do a lot of dirty things to a lot of close people. And my mom really felt the wrath of it. She's going through a messy divorce, and she's actually in the process of losing her house right now. And thanks to me, she doesn't have any money. She had saved up about $3,000, and I came up with this bright idea. So, when I was sick, hey, why don't I just write a bad check? I'll only do it once. And the next day, I'll do it again, $60 here, $40 there. It's just $100, no big deal. Next thing I know, I cleaned out her bank account, stole about $3,000 from her. Now, thanks to me, she has nothing. She's lucky if it wasn't for her boss, the lady she works for, she wouldn't even have a place to go. And she's still stuck by my side. She let me stay under her roof. She kept me fed. So I still continue to shoot dope, even though I seen what I was doing to everybody around me and the people I love most. People that have been there with me from day one and have never left my side. Started shooting dope. I continued to shoot up. I went to the hospital and was told I had hepatitis C. They said I came back positive for hepatitis C. and I had never shot up after anybody. I guess you can give it to yourself with your own blood. So I guess I thought I assumed that I had it, and started hanging out with this other guy, and we started sharing needles. This guy for sure had hepatitis C. I went and visited him when he was in the hospital for hepatitis. Next thing I know, I'm in the hospital for pneumonia in my right lung from shooting up, and I couldn't move my right arm or my shoulder and all through here because I continued to shoot up, and I was using dirty needles, and I just didn't care. As long as I got my fix and as long as I got high, then that's all that mattered. And my mom, I had already sold. At this point, I had already sold all the cars that I had. I had a couple cars and sold both of them, and so I had borrowed my mom's car, went and got some dope, went and got high, and went to the hospital because I just wasn't feeling good, you know. And they told me I had probably been walking around for about 2 weeks with a 103-degree fever. You know, and that stuff, you just don't know what, you know, you can't read any of the signs that your body's giving you. So my mom wasn't going to come in. She had someone else come in and get the keys, and they went outside and told her that I was strapped up, had hooked up to an EKG machine and had me strapped up because they were scared that the infection was going to spread to my heart. And so my aunt came and got the keys, and she went outside, and the next thing I know, my mom comes in the room, and she's crying and all that, and she steps out in the hallway for a second, and this lady right here, Rhonda, she sees Rhonda, and they've been friends, what, 1, 2, 3 years old? I mean, since, you know, forever. And so they get to talking, and Rhonda brings up the fact that, you know, her son was struggling with heroin, and my mom hadn't even said anything. And, you know, she told her, she's like, you know, can you please pray for my son? He's been strung out on dope for a while now. And so Rhonda came in, she prayed for me. I've honestly never been a big believer in God, never took the time to understand, never tried, never cared, honestly. And so she came in and told me about this program called Hope Over Heroin, and it was probably about what, a month. I'd say about a month before the program came up, and you know, I got out of the hospital a few days later, continued to shoot dope. This one Sunday comes, and it's the weekend of Hope Over Heroin, and I had been done with heroin for about 4 or 5 months. Me and that guy that I said had hepatitis C, we actually were both pretty down and had decided that if either one of us overdosed, that we would just leave the other one lie and just go about our business. And I actually did overdose, and I ended up dying. And he said I was leaning up against a tree, my face turned purple, my lips turned purple, and he started pouring water. And I had told him about 5, 6 months beforehand I've tried to go to a few rehabs. You know, everybody tries it, and it just didn't work for me. They would dope me up, and you know, I got kicked out of one, and it was just all a mess. And nowadays when you leave, they give you these things. They're called Narcan. The police have them nowadays, just because there's so many overdoses. Police are normally first on scene, so they hit you with it's called a Narcan shot. Well, I had one. I actually had a pack in my car. It was under my seat, and I told him about it 5, 6 months before in just casual conversation. Didn't think that he'd remember. He dumped some water on me, tried to slap me and stuff like that, you know, to see if I'd come to, and I just didn't come to. I just slumped over and fell onto the ground, and he ran to the car and grabbed the Narcan and came back, and I was completely blue, and he put it up my nose, and he shot it up my nose, and he said I started to cough a little bit, and it just didn't work. It just wasn't strong enough. And at that time, he called the Life Squad, and luckily, I mean, surprisingly, the Life Squad got there first, and they picked me up, threw me in the back of the ambulance. I guess hit me with more Narcan. I'm not exactly sure what happened, and they brought me back. I mean, they brought me back to life. And I mean, when I woke up, I was still high, and wasn't a great guy back then. So my buddy starts telling me the story while I'm laying in the ambulance of exactly what happened, and I'm being a smart butt, you know, and I'm like, you guys just picked me up and slung me around, you know, and the guy got in my face and really put me in check, and, you know, really put things in perspective, and told me, man, if we would have took the time to grab a gurney for you, you'd be dead right now. You wouldn't have a life. You wouldn't be sitting here talking to us. And again, after that, it was about 4 or 5 months before I went to the Hope Over Heroin, and I was still shooting dope all the time, and I was done with it. Rehabs didn't work. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't fight it off myself. I mean, you know, you wake up and you just, all you can do, you're lucky if you can get to the bathroom. You go to the bathroom on yourself, you're throwing up on yourself, you know. I mean, it's the worst pain imaginable. I can't understand how people get off of it and go back to it. But either way, so Sunday I look at it and it's around 2, 3 o'clock, and I'm like, and I'm imagining, you know, they did it around noon. So I thought Hope Over Heroin was over. So I was really down about it, and I didn't message her or anything. But within 5 minutes, she messages me and tells me Hope Over Heroin tonight's, I believe she said 5 to 7, 5 to 8, something along those lines. She said, if you need a ride, I'll come get you. Luckily, this young lady had came into my life, and she took me out there. And at that point, I had already given myself pneumonia again in my left lung. Couldn't breathe, could barely walk, couldn't talk, couldn't complete a sentence barely without running out of breath and having to try to catch my breath. And I went up there and you know, I met up with Rhonda, and you know, and at this point, I still wasn't a firm believer in God at all. And you know, I went up there and she met up with her, and you know, listened to people's testimonies.